Here comes Ice Caps fan Jim Lewis from Syracuse, New York. This will be for our broadcast on this Saturday. It's the 11th of March, and it's coming down in 3, 2, and 1. Back here in the first intermission at the Onondaga County War Memorial Arena with Jim Lewis from Syracuse, New York, who I'm going to dub Ice Cap super fan from the USA. Jim, thanks so much for joining us on our broadcast here on this Saturday evening. You astonished me, son, with your recollection of a trip to Newfoundland and Labrador to see your beloved hockey club, the St. John's Ice Caps, and we're going to talk about that in the gist of this conversation. But I got to first ask you, right off the hop, how in the heck did you, a young guy from Syracuse, become so in love with the St. John's Ice Caps?
Well, this goes back to 2005. I came to a Crunch game at the home opener, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, hey, the St. John's Maple Leafs, are they still around? And he's like, no, they moved to Toronto. And I said, oh, well, that's a bummer. Because normally, my family's not hockey. We're not hockey people. My dad, he always took me to the SU basketball and football games because he buys the season tickets for that, and that's what I grew up with. So when I had the opportunity in 2005 to come to a Crunch game and ask him about the Maple Leafs and how they moved away, I was like, boy, you know what? If they ever get a team back in St. John's in the AHL and they play in Syracuse, I'm going to root for them. And in the 2011 season happened, they came to, I think it was March of 2012, they came here. I rooted for the Ice Caps. I didn't have any Ice Caps jerseys, but I had this generic Canada jersey at the time, and I sat over in Section 5 there right behind the team, and lo and behold, it was just great. And listening to you, Raj, on the website, especially that year when they made it all the way to the conference finals and unfortunately got defeated against the Norfolk Admirals, and I gotta say it was amazing to even actually watch it on AHL Live as well, to see all the fans and everything. And I said, boy, you know, I'm glad I'm going to start following this team.
That's fantastic, man. I wish you and I would have got to know each other a little bit earlier back then, because the journey for you is simply overwhelming, and our fans are going to enjoy hearing about your journey as an Ice Cap fan. And as we sit here at the On Center on this Saturday morning, you're wearing your own Ice Cap jersey with number 41. And Lewis on the back, you got your Ice Caps cap on. You have a Newfoundland flag draped around you, which I know that you bring to the games and wield loudly and proudly, even though you're an American from Syracuse. That's a great story. So, Jimmy, you decided to drive by yourself from Syracuse in central New York all the way to Newfoundland to see the St. John's Ice Caps. Tell us about that, because that's a great tour, and you've actually documented it in a book as well, which I'm going to get a chance to have a look at there shortly. Walk me through that trip, where it all it started here, and how long it took you and why.
Okay. So in 2013, I decided, you know, this has got to be the year that I need to go see the team. So I decided that summer, I saved up all my money. I was working as a security guard, you know, working a lot of overtime hours, especially the graveyard shifts and everything. It's tiring. So I planned ahead, and when I finally got the schedule out, that the home opener, I think, was like the first weekend in October, which is quite surprising. That never happens. So I immediately worked away my schedule. I booked everything. I booked the ferry, booked the hotels and reservations, and so then, let's see, I think towards the end of September of 2013, I think it was like a Wednesday I left. I stopped in Portland, Maine the first night. Second night, I crossed the border and stopped in Moncton, New Brunswick. And then from Moncton, New Brunswick, I stopped into North Sydney, Nova Scotia. And then the following morning, woke up, hopped onto the ferry, went on, had a nice, lovely ride. I got to tell you, that ferry is a lot of fun. It's like a cruise ship, except you can bring your boat. And I recommend everyone to have the opportunity to do that. So I just went to Port aux Basques. I think they stopped doing the Argentia ferry at that time. So I went to Port aux Basques. I spent an overnight there in a nice little bed and breakfast there. And then the following night, it was actually Sunday morning. I went out to Corner Brook and was a lovely town, but the fact that everything was closed because it was Sunday, except for the Sobeys gas station. So I stopped in there and got a couple jams and yeah.
You got the Newfoundland cookies.
Oh, yes, I love those jams. And then went to Deer Lake to another bed and breakfast with lovely hosts there as well. And because the trip was, I wanted to take my time and enjoy it. I stopped in Grand Falls, Windsor, just to kind of sit down and relax, because this was a long trip, especially by yourself. So I went. So for dinner, I had Mary Brown's famous chicken and taters. It was kind of funny because we don't have that here. So when I went inside, I just told the guy, I said, "Listen, I'm not from here, but what do you recommend?" And I ordered something, and it was really good. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So we're in Grand Falls, Windsor, having a Big Mary, and a sponsor of the Ice Caps Hockey Club. And then you must by this time here now, you've had a little relaxer. You only probably got another 4 hours or so to get to St. John's. So what's your emotion set at this time?
Oh, I was really excited. It was that following morning. I was driving, still going down the Trans-Canada Highway, and I made a quick stop at the Terra Nova National Park. Yeah, because I saw a sign that said a cafe and stuff, but unfortunately everything closes quite early in Newfoundland. But at least the park was still open, but everything else was closed. So I just had a couple snacks that my mother packed for me, so I ate those. And the funny thing is, I met some people who were from Maine and talked to them for a little bit, and they were heading to St. John's. So continuing my trip to St. John's, and I arrived. I was going to say it was October 1st, I believe I arose, and went to the Quality Inn on Hill O'Chips. Yeah.
You got a photographic memory, man.
Yes, I do. And so I did some exploring. Once I got into St. John's, I made a couple phone calls. I told my family I had finally arrived to St. John's, and I was going to do some exploring. And I think I went to, I made my first quick stop to I think it's called the Celtic Hearth, or Celtic Hearth, I think it's.
Celtic Hearth, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, I had dinner there, and then I did some exploring at George Street, and boy, I love George Street. Yes. And the funny thing was, there's good old Mile One Center, and this is an interesting story, Raj, for you. So that day, as I'm walking right by Mile One Center, I noticed there's people inside in line for something, and I'm a little puzzled myself, and I said, I wonder what's going on. So I go to the front entrance there at Mile One, and I said, "What's going on here?" And they said, "Oh, the players are in town. The players are here signing autographs for the season ticket holders." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, that's nice." And they said, "But you are more than welcome to come in." And I said, "Well, absolutely." Yes. And I got to meet some of the players. Well, at the time, it was with the Winnipeg Jets, so we had Jason Jaffrey there. Eddie Pasquale was there, Carl Klingberg. Oh gosh, those were my favorite guys, Yeah, and I met some. While I was in line, I was talking to a gentleman behind me, and he was there, and he was a season ticket holder. And I said, "Man, I'm so glad I came in here today. I'm actually from Syracuse, New York." And he's like, "What?" And I told him, I was like, "Yeah, this is my vacation." And he's like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting. You'd come to St. John's for a vacation." And when I saw the players, told them the same exact thing. And Jason Jaffrey, he's like, "Wait, why did you come to St. John's for vacation?" Or no, he said, "Why did you go to Newfoundland for vacation?" I was like, "Because I love this place. I've always wanted to come here, and now I'm finally here, and I'm finally going to see you guys." He's like, "Well, that's cool." Yeah.
That is a fantastic story, Jim. I mean, you've got goosebumps and butterflies going here for me. Just hard to believe that we never ever crossed paths until now, and I will more than make it up to you here. But it's a great story. So, and you've got a photographic memory of that wonderful trip, and I know you documented in your book there. Just pull that book out for a second. I want to get a look at that as we continue on. I'm with Jim Lewis from Syracuse, New York, in our first intermission, and it says James Patrick Lewis, and on the front there's a shot of the lighthouse at Cape Spear, and it says My Trip to Newfoundland, and you documented that book. And how many pages in all? And you've got fantastic pictures of pretty well everything from day one right through to the bitter end.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Oh, yeah.
Explain a little bit about it here. So you started from there's your shots at mile one.
Yep.
You've got everything. And so you start right from day one in Portland, Maine. There's a lobster.
Lobster. Yep, a lobster. I had a lobster dinner there. I was at this place called the Salty Dog Brewery, I think it's called, and I looked at the menu and I saw I'm like, you know what? I'm on vacation. I'll get the lobster special.
Yeah, but he worked hard. As he said earlier in the outset of this, he was working the graveyard shift and many other jobs to save folders. I don't want you to walk all the way through, but that's just astonishing. Just flip through it a little bit further as you get closer, and of course you're going to document every stop that you made and so on. Get us toward mile one when you finally get inside the building and try to walk me through. And there we are, my goodness sakes. Look, you got a picture of this old bald-headed guy. You're there that night, my goodness sakes, yeah. Jim. This is astonishing stuff. Jim Lewis from Syracuse, and was able to meet the players and staff of the St. John's IceCaps. Do you remember the score? You must remember the score of the game. Did we win for you?
The first home game, the home opener, we lost in the overtime against the Province Bruins, but the second game, I think it was like 5-1 against the Bruins. So
you got to win, and you got a point in overtime.
That is correct.
So was that just those two games were the only two you saw?
Those were the only two games I saw, and then I think you guys were headed back on the road, I think to Toronto Marlies and to the Hamilton Bulldogs. So
that's fantastic. Jim, I can't thank you enough for taking this opportunity to talk to us and walk through us. I know that fans out there have to be endeared, but I know I am, and I appreciate your friendship and your camaraderie and the opportunity to interview you here today for our broadcast. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of our organization, all IceCap fans, for being a true Blue fan. You know, it's wonderful to have support on the road, and maybe you'll be a good luck charm here tonight for the IceCaps. They finish up this road trip.
Thank you very much, Raj, and I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to give this interview. And I just want to say hi to all my friends in Newfoundland and any strangers that I haven't met who are going to be my friends someday. And so thanks again. I hope we win tonight, and I hope we are to go all the way to the end in the playoffs.